Hello and welcome. Today we are driving a 2020 Ford Escape SE. This is an all-wheel drive model. I would like to thank Flood Ford of Narragansett, Rhode Island for allowing me to both review and drive this vehicle. To learn all the in-depth specs and features about this car, be sure to check out my full review, currently out on the channel. So this is riding on some 17-inch alloy wheels on 225 tires. And it also is powered by a 1.5-liter turbocharged 3-cylinder engine, making about 181 horsepower. Yeah, so this is a pretty basic spec. This is second from the bottom trim, but it's okay overall. And it does have rear cross traffic alert, as you have just seen. And it does have a pretty nice backup camera. It has moving tracking lines. It's very low quality. That's nothing Ford's fault, but that's just a common thing with a lot of cars. But it does have a rotary dial shifter, so that's a bit interesting. Not the most common. This does also have only cloth seats, but it is a power driver's seat with two-way lumbar support, while the passenger retains full manual controls. It does have auto stop start, which I am going to disable because I personally hate auto stop start. There's nothing wrong with a car having it, but I think it just causes excessive early engine wear, starting and turning it off consistently. So for the interior in here, you do have a rubber wrapped steering wheel. It's not leather wrapped because this is a lower trim. So it goes S, SE, SEL, and then on top of that, you would have titanium. This is just an SE. But it does have 181 horsepower. It's about the same as I tested and drove a 2019 Ford Escape, and that was an SEL, I believe, so be sure to check that out. And it does have blind spot monitoring, which of course just worked right there, so that is awesome. Yeah, so this is a 3-cylinder engine. I have reviewed another thing with a 3-cylinder engine. That would be the Buick Encore GX, but I wasn't able to drive that, so this will be a little interesting. I've never driven a 3-cylinder. I guess a couple of American brands now are going after 3-cylinders, so yeah, it's an interesting little choice. So this is mated with an 8-speed automatic transmission, and so far it seems pretty good. It's honestly riding pretty quietly in here as well so far, for what it is. It's just an economy car. Okay, the shifts are very slow. I will say that. It is very slow to upshift if you're cruising at a decent speed, but that's alright. So far, it's shifting smoothly. It just is extremely slow to do so. I do have different drive modes, though, of course, so we'll do a 0 to 60 in just a moment, and there I'll put it in sport mode and see how it does. And this is all-wheel drive, so it should be able to put down the power. It's not like I should be getting wheel skip or anything up like. So, we will see. But I'll get back to you, because there is a lot of traffic, and I'll see you in a moment. One of my wonders about this car, something I'm wondering about, is how a 3-cylinder engine is going to fare. If it's going to turn into a common thing for smaller SUVs and smaller economy cars, or if that'll remain a typically non-American type of setup, because 3-cylinders, until a couple years ago, were basically unheard of in American cars, but especially American-made. So, yeah, it could be interesting. See what that ends up being. But this engine isn't bad. It's moderately torquey. And, yeah, so far it's really not that bad to drive. Yeah, let's send it through this corner just a little bit, this Escape. It's at about 40. Okay, yeah, there's some body roll. But it's actually not that bad. It feels improved from the last gen. The last gen was pretty good and really torquey at low end, but it had a giant drop-off in the higher speeds in there. The power band just completely was gone once you hit about 4,000 RPM. But we will check on the same road. I'll turn around in a moment and see both the turning radius, and then we can do a 0 to 60. Because I really wonder, I don't even really know how a 3-cylinder tends to sound, if it sounds too much different, so that could be interesting as well. As for the ride quality, even on 225 tires right here, I think it's actually pretty good. I'm pleasantly surprised. The engine seems a little bit loud. I don't know, it seems like it has a lower grunt than some other engines. So let's see, let's try a 3-point turn. Very loud steering sound. I don't really know what that is, but I guess that's the power-assisted electric steering. That is extremely loud. I don't know what that is. It sounds like you're like waving a brush or something. Okay, it feels like the other engine though, right here, like at low speeds, it does feel very nice and torquey. Brakes feel pretty good. Very light steering. Although it has good input with the steering, it's very, very light. I could do this with 2 fingers easily. You can't really hear the turbo, so that's okay, I guess. Just a thought I was having. Let's go into sport mode. See if anything changes. Yeah, just like gearing tends to kick up a gear. So yeah, it really doesn't handle all that bad. It's just a small SUV, but it handles decent. So let's come to a quick stop right here. Brakes feel good, and floor it. And 60. Okay, yeah, it's not quick. It's not expected to be. But the thing I noticed with, at least when you're in sport mode with the shifting, it does shift a little bit harder, but the thing is it has a big gap, but for you feel the gear actually kick back in and pull it in. It's very very random like that. So it feels just a little bit like there's a dead zone. Once you shift, say you're at 6,000 RPM, you shift from 4th into 5th. Before 5th, you get the tug that you're back in the gear. There's a big drop off. That's something I noticed. I don't know. Then again, that's under pretty, you know, large duress, considering that I was flooring it, so there's that. But, yeah, okay, it's not too bad so far. And making a bit of a quick corner right here. Okay, yeah, body roll. Big time body roll. But it stables out pretty quick. It really doesn't sound all that bad for a 3-cylinder engine. It sounds decent. Wind noise, once you hit about 50, wind noise becomes present, but it's actually pretty quiet until you get to there, so that's nice. And then also, it has really skinny tires, so tire noise is pretty non-existent in my early testing right here. Okay, when you're on the brakes decelerating though, it kind of seems like it wants to choose a little bit what gear to stay in for a while. Sometimes it'll be a little bit of a like hesitant decision type of thing before the gears tend to change. And you just heard that. There is a decent bit of vibration at times, just either from the engine or from the transmission, but it's not all that bad. If you stomp it, it'll kick up, but just the transmission seems, it's probably for the economy reasons, it's tuned to shift very slowly, but I don't know, it's just a little, it's not like usually willing to kick up 2 or 3 gears, say. It's usually gonna be pretty hesitant to shift beyond, say, maybe a 1 to 2 gear change on occasion. It takes bumps pretty well, though. That felt nice, going through a manhole type of cover, so. Yeah, not bad. And you do have a phone in here. I think you have CarPlay. You do not have nav in this specific setup, so that's a little bit of a disappointment, but that's not too bad. Oh, I believe in the newer ones it may be more standard, or at least closer to standard, because just newer cars tend to have both CarPlay and Android Auto now packaged, so that may be present in the newer ones. Alright, so overall, this really does feel like a pretty big upgrade, except for the transmission. I don't really like this transmission. When you're decelerating, it has little gaps where it'll like throw you forwards a little bit because it doesn't want to brake the gear it's in. Or when it's going up, occasionally there will be big dips between actual shifts. Yeah, when you're decelerating, it kind of makes you go like bouncing a little bit back and forth as it decides when and which gear it's going to drop into at that moment. But it's not that bad. It's better for city driving, I would assume, but coming down to a decent stop from a decent speed is, it can just be a little bit bouncy. You can feel it trying to choose. But overall, I think this is a pretty substantial upgrade for the generation. So in the 2020 now to 2022 generation, and continuing, I think it's pretty good. It looks a lot more modernized, both inside and out. Although it's a very minimal, it's not a luxury interior, of course. It looks more minimal, and it does seem a bit sleeker. than the previous one. Everything just seems a bit more uniform in here. It seems, I don't know, I just like it better. It's, even though it is just a screen sticking up, I like it, honestly. Because the other one was like deep inside of, deep set inside of the, whole like radio setup. They had like big plastic casing on both sides of it, so I didn't love that because it was such a far reach, but this is a little easier to reach. And for at least the front seating, I think it's pretty comfortable. Then again, I do have a power driver seat, so I can adjust a lot more. But yeah, even to have that on SE trim is pretty good in my opinion. Alright, so that'll just about wrap up this drive of the Ford Escape 2020 SE all-wheel drive. Make sure to check out my full in-depth review so you can hear all about the different features. I dive in way more in-depth in that video. Here I just tend to comment on the driving characteristics, in my opinion. Thank you again to Flood Ford Lincoln of Narragansett, Rhode Island, for allowing me to both review and drive this vehicle. Your link is down below. Thank you very much for watching, and take care.